Hello there. Today I'm excited to be looking at a wine from Tasmania. So here we have Tolpuddle Vineyard. It's a single vineyard Pinot Noir. It's a 2021 vintage, and this is from the Coal River Valley in Tasmania. So Tasmania, an island to the south of Australia, south of Melbourne. And this region, the Coal River, is one of the smaller regions of Tasmania. I mean, most of Tasmania's wine is made in the northeast around Launceston, particularly in the Tamar Valley. That's the largest producing area, whereas the Coal Valley is actually about 20 minutes drive northeast of Hobart. So it's a cooler area. It's on the southeast coast of Tasmania. So there's nothing between this valley and Antarctica, really. It's a very much a cool climate growing region, but evidently it's sheltered by Mount Wellington, and therefore you have quite a low rainfall, so quite an ideal place for growing cool climate suited varieties like, as Tolpuddle do, Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. So the name Tolpuddle is derived from the Tolpuddle martyrs, who were 6 people who formed an agricultural union in the village of Tolpuddle in Dorset in England in 1834, I believe. And they were, as a result of this, transported to Australia. And one of them, probably the leader of the group, George Lovelace, ended up being transported to Tasmania and was set to work at a property in Richmond, part of which became this vineyard, hence the name Tolpuddle in recognition of that. The Tolpuddle martyrs were famous because there was quite a fuss, there were riots, and eventually, instead of being transported for 7 years, they were pardoned after 2 years, and George Lovelace actually returned to the UK in 1837. But they were early English unionists, farm workers who had banded together. The vineyard here was started in 1998, and amongst the people who actually set up Tolpuddle Vineyard were people like Tony Jordan, who went on to head up the Green Point Moet's operation in Australia, and then also Cloudy Bay in New Zealand. There was Gary Crittenden, very famous for his estate Dramana, and also another estate he founded under his family name subsequently in the Mornington Peninsula region near Melbourne. So, some very accomplished winemakers and viticulturists engaged in setting up this estate. The vineyard was bought in 2012 by Shaw and Smith, Martin Shaw and Michael Hill Smith, who have the Shaw and Smith vineyard in the Adelaide Hills. Michael is a member of the family that owned Yalumba, and was actually the first non-British person to pass the Master of Wine exam. So he's a very accomplished member of the wine industry. And actually the team that work in the Adelaide Hills for them, including winemaker Adam Wadowitz, have been involved here at Tolpuddle as well. The Coal Valley, as I say, a cool region with quite low rainfall, about 500 millimetres a year, because it's in the rain shadow of the mountains here. This area has some lovely friable soils. There's silica and sandstone, and as a result the vine, it gets gently stressed, which prevents it getting too vigorous, keeps yields down, keeps the fruit lovely and concentrated. The approach in the winery is to try and be low intervention. So what they're saying is that the wine is made very much in the vineyard. Hand picking goes on, and some of the fruit is destemmed but kept as whole berries. The balance is fermented as whole bunches. So you've got quite a long, slow fermentation as the berries slowly break and open. You should have good maceration there because the skins are staying in contact with the juice and macerating very slowly as the alcohol builds up slowly. The must and fermenting wine is punched down. It's fermented in open top fermenters, so just really gentle extraction for the period that it does that. The wine is run into French oak barrels. It stays there for 9 months. 1/3 of those are new, and yeah, so the style of winemaking, I guess, is quite reminiscent of the way you might make a top quality Burgundy. So let's see if the wine matches up to that. I'd say you've got a nice depth of a deep, dark, sort of black ruby colour there. Perhaps it's not as deep as all that. It's dark. I can see through quite easily. I can see the stem of the glass. Swirling the wine, it clings to the side of the glass. There's not a particular presence of tears there. It's only 13.5% alcohol, which I suppose for an Australian Pinot is not particularly high. Let's look at the aromas, shall we? There's quite a developed, jammy, almost meaty note to the nose. It's rich, it's ripe. There are sort of dark, ripe, slightly jammy plum notes there. And I guess all of that is backed by a nice toasty oak, which is very well integrated. I mean, there are cedar notes and vanilla notes, but they don't stand out particularly. They're beautifully melded with the fruit aromas. Quite powerful aromas, though. I'm quite impressed by that. Let's have a taste. There are some really quite big, rich, bursting, juicy fruit notes there, and they're picked up really nicely by good acidity. There are some notes of slightly drying, slightly gripping tannins, and the flavours are making me think of the stems of the bunches there. So, you know, a certain amount of that whole bunch fermentation note coming in there, adding a pleasant complexity to the wine. It's not astringent, but there is a sort of a drying, spicy, slightly peppery note, and that's helping to peak out slightly the cedary sweet spice as well. Again, nicely integrated, but you know, tiny touches of cinnamon, I suppose, over this lovely ripe plum to dark plum, ripe plum. I'm reticent to say prune because it's not really that overripe note, but there is a really high sort of ripeness, dark fruit coming here. In terms of weight in the mouth, you've got some really lovely fine tannins. They're very delicate, they're quite silky. It's not much more than sort of medium weight. There's a richness and a ripeness, but it's not a big, huge wine. It's not got that sort of 14.5% alcohol that some really ripe Pinot Noirs from a warmer climate might have. And that's its sort of cool climate elegance that's allowing a more delicate red fruit, you know, more of that sort of fresh plum note to come through at the finish, where there's a nice length of fresh, it's almost got sort of floral red fruit notes there. There's some nice slight starts of development notes as well as maybe a little bit of sort of forest floor touches, but in general this is a lovely bright red fruit with some real richness and depth, and I find that's a really impressive wine. I think you quite happily age that for at least 5 or 6 years, probably longer. I mean, the acidity's good, the concentration's good, there's nice structure. So yeah, very impressive wine. I think there's for the money, there's quite a lot of interest and concentration in that wine. So thank you for watching. I hope you found this interesting. I hope it'll prompt you to follow us on YouTube. Do please leave your comments. We'd love to hear what you think about the wine, this wine or others that you've tried. Do please tell your friends, do like and share the video, but most importantly, do please make sure you join us again for another tasting good and soon, won't you? Thanks very much. Bye now.